afternoon, and welcome to IEE's Virtual Summer Social. We're here today in beautiful Bella Sera here in Canonsburg. We couldn't have you here today, so we're bringing the social to you. Before we begin, I hope everybody is healthy and well, and I'd like to thank all of IEE sponsors for their continued support of IEE during these unprecedented times. PNC, Huntington Bank, Chase, Meyer Uncle Vic and Scott, UPS, UPMC, UPMC Health Plan, Enso Long Associates, Cohen and Company, Wilkie and Associates, the Net Experts, KPMG, AT&T, Melo Brungo Melo, and Sea Level. Thank you very much for your continued support during these times. Now it is my pleasure to hand it off to our longtime friend, IEE client and member, Jason Katz, who will start by making us all a few drinks.
Thanks, Bob. Hello, everyone. Now I know what like Jimmy Kimmel and others feel like you're talking to an audience that's out there and not right in front of you. Welcome to Bella Sera. This is the new gardens at Bella Sera. We opened this 2 years ago. We're going to pan the camera here shortly and show you the back or the other area, the tented area. We're more than capable of hosting events of all sizes now. We know the rules, under 250 people outdoors, and we're set and ready for that. But we did this beautiful garden area, so for a ceremony, and a great place. We usually locate all the white chairs out in the garden area for ceremonies, parties of all sizes. We had 2 great weddings this past weekend, and we have many more to come. So August, people have asked what kind of how's business? And, you know, I wish I could say business as normal, but as with most of you and us here as well, nothing's really that normal these days. So we're making do as we can. So for all of my compadres in the restaurant business in certain parts of the country, I feel your pain. I know that we're doing the best we can with the resources we have as well. So hang in there, and hopefully we'll all get to the other side of this and look back someday and laugh about it, maybe, I don't know, hopefully. But usually when I think about cooking, my first thoughts go to Italian food, and then they immediately go to Italian drinks. And some of the easiest, I think, and the most simple are a couple that we're going to do today. One of them is the Aperol Spritz. It became radically popular in the last 5 years, although it's been popular in Italy. I'm not sure it's quite their national drink, but in northern Italy, it's supremely popular. It's what they drink in the afternoon. Right about this time, they're coming off a siesta. Of course, they're 6 hours ahead, so it'd be 10:30 at night there. But usually before dinner, they resume work, take a little stroll, have some gelato, and before they sit down to dinner, they'll have a nice cocktail. So we're going to make the Aperol Spritz. If we can pan this way, Brett. Super simple drink. It's got Prosecco. Love that sound. We're using Rufino Prosecco, and it's full bubbles. All right, so and I even haven't had one yet. So all right, first things first, we're gonna get some ice in the glass. Aperol is a rhubarb derivative. Super simple. The recipe calls for Aperol. If you notice, I left the club soda out. My Italian heritage, as well as my other family members and friends around the country, would never think of putting club soda or diluting their alcohol with non-alcoholic mixers like Coke, you know, and other typical mixers. So I like to start with plenty of ice. I'm gonna put some Aperol in here. You can measure it. I tend not to. And some Prosecco. You could go about half and half, but you want to see that color. We have a picture on the recipe card, and it shows that layer of that nice red. It'll settle to the bottom, and some of the Prosecco on top. And beyond that, we're just going to garnish with a little bit of orange. Use a whole wheel if you like something like this, and that's it. And if I was thinking ahead, I would have made somebody else one. Brad, you want one? All right, so this, I do like the orange flavor down inside of it. So if you had to get that orange down inside there, once you start drinking that, I can use this right now. Thank you. All right, so that's out of the way. Let's step over to our first recipe. A couple other things that I wanted to mention is I wanted to thank not only Bob and the PIT IE. I've been longtime member. This property, when we built in 2005 and 2006, back in Ann Dugan was running the program. She invited me to participate, and I said, you know, I read the criteria, and I saw the line said, you know, must do $1 million in revenue, and I said, we're not there yet. She said, don't worry, you will be. And lo and behold, that year, you know, between our combined catering and other efforts with the venue, when we opened, we hit that mark pretty fast. So we're going to step over and hit this first recipe. This is our Thai corn salad. And I want to also introduce our new executive chef, Jason Schaefer. He comes from Sheridan Station Square.
Hi everybody, how we doing?
He can give you a quick, give him a few seconds about where you came from, what you've been doing.
I've been in the city. I came back from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I've worked at Renaissance. I also worked at Sheridan Station Square and Green Tree Doubletree. I've always enjoyed fresh cooking. I love the opportunity to be out here at Sera. I love the dedication to drinking and to plant where it should be, and I also really enjoy using fresh ingredients. And honestly, it is an absolutely gorgeous. It is a beautiful venue. So thank you very much for having me aboard. And I look forward to cooking a little bit today. So it should be a good time.
I'm making you a drink. Thanks, I should have made us too.
Thank you.
We're going to get right at this first dish, Cycloid Salad. What are we going to do? What do you got here?
All right, Thai corn salad is basically, we're trying to focus on the corn because obviously it's coming up, it's super fresh. I had my very first good seasonal corn yesterday. It was absolutely delicious. It was warm, it was sweet, it had a really, really good crispness to it. So we decided we're going to do something to focus on that. So what we have is Thai corn salad. It's basically 5 to 6 years of fresh corn chopped. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to blanch the corn, cool it down, and we're going to cut it into ribbons.
So I'll say, when you take the corn, you want to get rid of as much of that soap as possible. The end result, when he said ribbons, you know, after you're boiling this for a few minutes, salty water. When we say salty, like the ocean, you can dip your finger in there and know. So for, let's say, a gallon of water, probably a quarter cup of salt, which should be very salty. Pretty much the same rules in effect with pasta when you're cooking that. I think a lot of people undersalt at that stage, and that's a big taboo. That's a no-no. You need that flavor coming out. So fresh local corn, as Jason mentioned. Another variation, we will take this corn, soak it in water in a sink, a pot, a bucket somewhere for half an hour, and roast it right on the grill this way. Make a whole other version of another salad, black bean roasted corn salad, other types of salad, but or eat it right out of the husk. When you peel it, you almost have a handle with the husk, and you can eat it right off the husk that way. So
during the summer, I think a lot of people really shy away from corn because they're afraid of boiling in the kitchen. And like Jason just said, if you soak it and put it on the grill, it saves all that heat and actually amplifies the flavor too.
Yeah. So anyway, you want to make the vinaigrette first?
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
So we're using a vessel. You can use a mason jar, whatever your shaker. We tried to, I say, simplify this recipe down. When we do cooking classes, I've been doing it for 20 years. My number one thing is make sure all the dishes that we prepare are approachable, meaning you can get the groceries at the local store and not have to order anything online, nothing extravagant. Certainly dealing with freshness, as Jason mentioned, we're the certified green. The first venue in the state of Pennsylvania and the 5th in the United States to be certified green. So why don't you come on here for a second? This is our sous chef, Barb. She didn't know she's on the spot now. She's our latest addition. She's a certified beekeeper. Barb, you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
I did a apprenticeship in the Culinary Federation. Now I'm full-time. I'm basically this in Washington. Really excited to be here. Hopefully by next year we can get some beehives on the property. I'm really into doing more with the land, more into the fresh ingredients, hopefully growing some herbs here in the future, and just growing that, possibly getting further into that. Very looking forward to it.
So Barb, yeah, I said I got some fresh in from the plant the other day. I was like, go find a place to plant this. Like, where'd you plant it?
Right here.
Okay.
Here. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So we have big plans for that in the garden, and Barb's going to take the lead on that. We originally hired her what, a month ago?
Yeah, a little over a month.
At the bistro. We shut that down in South Point at the CNX Consol Energy Building for let's just say until they come back to work a little bit and South Point starts bursting again with people. Right now it's a little flat up there, and we'd rather focus our efforts in getting ourselves and weddings here situated. So for now, we're here at Sera. We don't have any immediate to-go plans for food, although again, we get back up a bit sometime in August and September. We're going to be doing dinners to go and kind of get back to business on a daily basis. So we're here for all your catering and event needs. So what are we doing now? All right. Let's make it real. All right. And the reason I said do it in a mason jar or something you could shake. This is not an emulsified dressing where you need to whip in your olive oil slowly. This is one of those recipes we're just going to do a shake and go, because it's going to filtrate the ingredients in salad. And it doesn't need to be emulsified. Actually, we prefer it not to be. Think about the thickness of it. Let's say an Italian dressing, Zesty Italian. It's already emulsified, so it's thicker. It's got a higher viscosity, I think, than just vinegar and oil separate. They're lighter, more watery-like at their lowest form, so they kind of penetrate a little bit better than the thickness of a vinaigrette. So we don't want to make a vinaigrette in the traditional sense, in emulsified. We're making a separating vinaigrette. Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start out according to the recipe. We're going to use a quarter cup of cider vinegar, mild vinegar. You can kind of use rice wine if you wanted to, I think.
Yeah, or champagne vinegar. We did do this with white balsamic, but it doesn't seem to kind of be true to the Thai/Far East version of this salad. So we thought of vinegars again that are mild. Cider vinegar doesn't technically fall either, but at least it's it fits into those lighter. You don't want a harsh white vinegar. I guess you could say a red wine vinegar.
Yeah,
but again, think of the tamer, milder vinegars. Even that organic one, I forget the name of it. You sell them like hotcakes in store because everybody's drinking a cup of it. It would work as well. So,
Right.
All right, go ahead.
We're going to start out with a quarter cup of cider vinegar. We're going to add a tablespoon of brown sugar. You could also add, you could use coconut sugar. You can use palm sugar. Anything you want except for white. I like this because also it has the molasses in it. So what it does kind of brings on a little bit more flavor, makes it a little bit more stronger, and gives it a little bit more twang. So we got that going. We're going to use some Maggi Sauce next. A lot of you guys haven't probably heard of this. And a lot of Thai foods and a lot of the old recipes in the United States used to call them what's called Brownie Sauce. So what it is, it's like a really, really heavy, thick, fortified veggie stock. This is the Asian version. It's actually quite delicious. They make it in a spicy. They also make it in a regular. Put in a lot of Thai dishes across the board, and it really, really enhances the flavor. They actually sell it like 1.5 ounce bottle, so if you want to try it, it'll be like the airline bottle size. Yeah, and it's delicious. So we're going to go ahead and start with a little bit of that. Technically, it calls for a teaspoon. Just don't want to put too much in there because we don't want too much heat. All right. Our next is our favorite mild oil. We're going to use 3/4 of a cup. We picked avocado oil. It's become one of my favorites. I'm reading the keto book. It's, I'm trying to think about ways to get some like fat content, but not in the forms of vegetable oils, canola oils. I'm steering clear of all of that. If I'm cooking at high temps, like French fries or something in the house, I might use peanut oil that has a high smoke point. But it's got to be cleaner oil. I'm not personally comfortable with where, across the U.S. where there's canola oils and how they're made, soy, things like that. So we're looking at more what we call vegetable oils made from other things like avocado. So we need that. I really like the avocado oil because it has a huge amount of omega-9 in it, which is actually extremely good for you. Also, the flavor aspect as well is just absolutely delicious.
with a little bit of our chopped cilantro next. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons.
So we did is we took it, we peeled the stems off, and we just gave it a little bit of a quick chop. I have some already over here.
I forgot. This is like emerald, like
Right.
we had prepped for Marvin Jason.
So we're going to go ahead and give that a little sprinkle. We're going to throw the cap on, and we are going to go ahead and shake it up. Yep, we'll do that. Then we're going to go ahead and start on the actual ingredients of the salad. So we're going to do we're going to do some shaved onion.
Yeah, did you have a way you want to show them?
I do. So a lot of places when you go,
Bring it up a little bit just to get down on the
For your 2 sides of your onion, you're going to look. And a lot of people, you'll see them cut it across. But what you do in the bottom of it, if you look, you actually have little ribs and little membranes. So basically, it's kind of like the opposite of a steak. Steak, you want to cut against the grain. Onions, you want to kind of go with the grain. You know what I mean? Because it'll give you a lot better flavor and less crunch, and then you don't have any get the strings in your mouth either.
so normally you just cut it in half, and I just take it and go nice and slow. Just shave it down. That's it. Do a little bit of chop right there, and as you see, you can get it nice and paper thin. Helps it dissolve, helps you get all that beautiful flavor in there. So we're going to go right along.
So the other thing, if thinking about when we do, I think we all learned this in culinary school. You think about the garnish, think about the relative size of everything. You know, this one we have different texture, you have flavor, and you have shape. You know, when you're doing a soup that has a celery, carrot, onion mix, you want all those garnished to be cut at relatively the same size. You might cook them at different rates, one first, the other one next, and so on. We're mixing this up a little bit. So we're going to use we have the shape of the tomato going in. We have these ribbons of corn. We have this length of this onion. But don't be afraid. If you want to dice this, make it a little easier to eat with a spoon. You know, standing party only kind of thing. Standing room only. Do that. We'll keep it at a little bit, I'll say, rustic.
All right. Next after that, we're going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of our favorite spicy pepper. You can use a habanero, Thai chili, jalapenos, serranos, Scotch bonnets.
Or
So it basically depends on your heat.
Yes.
Is it Scoville? Scoville.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have different, these are chili, there's a circumstances. This is a chili. These obviously mature to red, as a lot of peppers eventually do. If you leave them on the vine. I can't say, do you know if that gets red? Because I think they all eventually do.
Yeah, it actually goes red to black. Yeah, absolutely.
So we did a little mixture. This little guy right here, to make this whole recipe might just be enough. So don't be afraid. I should have probably started with that. Everything I think recipe-wise, we don't really follow as much anymore per se. You saw how I made that drink. You know, it's kind of a little bit of this, a little of that. Find your taste, your flavor. I invite people to experiment and don't kind of follow that rigid. You know, if you're going to make something for dinner, you've cooked before. You have common sense. You know that pepper's going to be hot, salt is going to be salty, pepper is going to be, and so on. So don't be afraid to modify things. You know, if you don't like chicken, substitute the pork or the beef or some other item for it. So certainly by quantities as well. So you know, we may look at this and say that's not enough vinaigrette for this volume of salad. So we might splash a little more of this and that. So we encourage that. Right? So anyway, he's got a little bit of that in here.
I use the red jalapeno. I think it's more neutral. But me personally, I'm not a huge heat guy, but I love the flavor. So after that, we're going to go ahead and add our ribbons of corn.
And the idea here really is to keep this corn in its integrity, its shape, as best as possible. So we don't want it to turn into little kernels. It will by the time the party's over or your meal is over. But at the beginning, we want to keep that. So we're just going to take. I probably should have had a larger mixing bowl out here. That's one of my thoughts is to mixing bowl. If you get a set of mixing bowls, get them bigger. Find a place to put that in your hubby or your lazy suits or whatever, and have a good set of bigger mixing bowls for whisking your vinaigrettes and whatnot. So
After that, we're going to do 2 lime zested. So we're going to go ahead and zest one real quick. One of the most handy things in the world is your little microplane you're going to keep. So basically, rub the outside. As you rub, rotate. What you don't want want to do is you're going to want to get the white pith in there because that's actually the good part. We're going to go ahead and just kind of roll it around real good. Also gives you a little bit of color, but the flavor from the sauce is very, very intense.
Yeah, but you could also put this in the vinaigrette.
The idea of making the vinaigrette on the side is, again, try to keep the integrity of that corn, that shape of that corn. And tomatoes.
Yep, add our tomatoes.
These, you got some beautiful grape tomatoes. Are these local or are they?
Those actually are local. Everything is starting to come in local right now because we got a really, really warm early season one. Everything's coming in a little bit faster. It's coming in a little bit brighter. Your shelf life is a little bit lower because of that right now, but the flavors are incredible.
So again, I found myself wanting to play with that and toss it around. The idea is to keep that as much of this over here to the side and those ingredients, just get it into the bowl, add your vinaigrette, and then slowly incorporate that. I mean, again, trying to keep those ribbons, like you said.
As he mixes, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a nice little sprinkle of the salt and pepper on there. Just a touch. You don't really need a lot because vinaigrette's going to make up for a lot of that.
And if you just get that work, incorporate a little bit and leave it sit in your refrigerator for an hour maybe, with a little garnish here. Yep. That's it.
That's absolutely perfect for your barbecue on a nice good day.
That's it here. Again, leaving those chunks in there the best as possible. And we should have showed you that, shaving that corn off the husk. Let me do that real quick while you cut the camera up. So when you're doing that, I'm always creating the flat spot, okay? Giving myself a nice base to work from, okay? But I'm going pretty deep on this. I mean, I don't want this, I want this to go as much as I can and keep it in the shape of it. You're going to find that you go too deep, you're going to find yourself getting into the wood of that a little bit. So I think there's probably a fine balance. That would be a little better. All right, so you want to go deep, but not all the way to the core. All right, but again, going slow, letting it fall, that's going to work better.
What you're really looking for is kind of the end right here. As you can see, it's all maintained, but that is absolutely delicious.
Yeah, this corn's phenomenal.
Yes.
I love this one. All right, so move on. Be right there. We've got another drink.
I think we should do it. It's a very warm day. It's beautiful outside here at Sera. So
I'm sweating like straight down.
I agree.
So we're eating this food ourselves, so a little, chef sweat dinner is not going to feel. It's like Lauren, come down here. And I was really going to drop that bottle for a second. I caught it though. You did. I mean, of course I did. I thought you had skills. Yeah. All right. So next up, we're going to make the Negroni. Let's introduce Negroni. For ACDC. You see her shirt, 1979. She was, I was 10 years old in 79. So that means you weren't even Lauren was 14. She goes to school.
I live in Hampton, Ohio, but come here every weekend. Yeah. And it's like an hour away from here.
What do you want to do when you go?
I want to be a fast food director.
That leaves culinary out of the equation.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah, you realize how it was working. So,
Yeah.
Stressful. But she cooks really well. What did you make? Macaroons.
Yeah. I made this house.
Yeah, what was your other favorite dish?
Homemade pasta.
What do you like that I cook? What's the thing we cook that make it really good?
Kale.
Make greens. There's a recipe. We just made it up. Like the Tuscan.
Yeah.
Tuscan kale, cabbage nero, the black cabbage. You see it, giant eagle. It looks like Swiss chard. It's kind of darkly bumpy, kind of like a cross between mustard greens, collards, and so on. But it's got a real kind of a this flavor's good. And then mixed with regular kale, you just little olive oil, real basic dish. So if anybody wants that recipe, hit me up. I'll send that to you. But the fact that they eat that kind of stuff and a lot of salad, I mean, that means they're. I don't know. I need to eat more of that. All right. So let's. So now we're going over 21 stuff. She's 14, by the way.
Jason, don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and pour these tomatoes.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, he's gonna take a minute to watch him do his thing. Yeah, we need to.
So normally you would take your tomatoes and you always want to draw some of the water out of them, especially in a salad like this. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to use this little shark. These things are priceless. Everybody always takes their knife and pours out. You lose a lot of tomato.
Or they make the sin of taking that whole top off again,
Which is terrible.
So let's just think about this. You're in the business. We sell, let's say, 60,000 servings of tomato salad this year. If every time we went like that, we've lost probably about 1/12, 1/15 versus that.
Compared to that.
So as a chef or operator, and you at home trying to make your little dollar, what seems like it's harder and harder to earn these days, go farther. That gadget, what's that tool cost? $3?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And another thing, it works great on strawberries too, because I always see everybody cut the tops off the strawberries.
Right.
And it's a lot of loss.
Yeah. So if you couldn't figure out how to get one of those, you could top it off, but at least cut the triangles out. You'll end up with some product. But again, we're looking for consistency and shape. All right. And he's going to cut these, and we haven't actually talked about it. I'll show you how I have learned to cut. And do we have any bromas? We're going to show you the
We have
broma as well.
yes.
But what I've found, let's use yours. What I've found is, and just real one-on-one cutting, I work with the front of my knife on the cutting board as often as possible. I get that thing up in the air. I try to work from inside the food and like bell peppers so that it's less likely to slip and slide, or I'll make a flat spot on a carrot, so I can slice it down easier that way. So I'm trying to avoid injury in the kitchen. For this particular dish, we could go like that, okay, and or make our sections. I tend to try to figure out a way to keep them together. So that's going to kind of hold itself. Nature's pretty cool. It gives us a natural cradle to hold that embryo inside the tomato. It's going to get tossed around and whatnot. Another way to do it is cut it across first and then cut it this way. So again, you're trying to do something that's keeping it together. You don't want to end up with that and that. So the more they're together as one throughout the salad, the better off you are. So in that case, I already butchered those two for you. So I'll let you finish.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so basically I just go ahead and I'll take most of mine into thirds if they're this small. If not, I'll take them into fours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them down, make sure your skin, your actual flesh side is up. What you're going to do is you're going to just add some salt to them. What the salt's going to do is going to take and get rid of some of that excess moisture. And with the excess moisture, when we pour it out, A, it's great to get bread in just for a snack. And B, it's going to make the salad a lot more intense.
Yeah, I find that the farther you get towards winter time, where the tomatoes are less flavorful, if you're taking a great beefsteak tomato out of your garden tomorrow, you may even omit this step, especially what we're trying to do is make a slightly more concentrated vinaigrette. So if you let that water, the moisture stay in that tomato, they use salt since the beginning. I mean, since they started curing meats, thousands of years ago. It's a natural. As you do, if you drink salty, if you eat a bag of potato chips and run around outside in 100 degrees, you're going to dehydrate faster because the salt is pulling the moisture out of your body. So the idea is, in this case, it's a super quick little mini. It's called leaching some of the excess moisture out of it. But again, if you don't mind that slightly watery vinaigrette, you don't have to do this salting step. We just tend to do it because we know our tomato salad is going to be made, 4 to 6 hours before the event. It's going to sit on the buffet table or in somebody's bowl for a period of time. So we want this to be as kind of flavorful and as powerful as possible.
And like Jason was saying earlier, we're talking about nature's little membrane, a way to hold things tight. That's just a slice of the inside of your tomato. If you have a really sharp knife, you actually get through that membrane. It's just nice to look at.
Yeah.
And not only the fact that is how well it does actually hold up.
All right, so he's going to do.
Yep, I'm just cutting. I just need one more to cut, and we're in great shape.
Show them the Romans.
Definitely will.
Leave them. So think about other thoughts. All right, you're eating at home with your family at the table. Knife, fork, typical dinner. You've got all the accoutrements. You've got what you need to eat. Standing cocktail party on your patio, barbecue, 30 people, no place to put a knife and fork and do all that stuff and cut and chop. You might want to make these a little more bite-sized. For Jason and I, to shove that in your mouth is easy. For a woman, you may want to cut them slightly smaller. So think about your audience. Again, I would leave these whole, but for looks, but not for practicality. So again, the aromas, I don't think I have I love a good Campari tomato or a really good hand locally grown, particularly if it's out of my own garden. Aromas are great as well. San Marzanas and the other stuff, they're great stewing tomato. I don't know that I'd waste the money on that tomato.
Definitely not.
You want a good tomato,
right?
We're not cooking, but it's got to be more of a meaty tomato.
Yeah,
right. Let's. I'll let you guys finish your salt. Salt right here. I'm just a light amount of salt, basically.
And trust me, there's two reasons I'm going to do that. Number one, if you oversalt the tomato, it's going to be shot right out of the gate. Number two, I want to draw out some of that water, but I have a use for all the juice. So that's the best part. I'm just going to go ahead and go real light. Some nice little sprinkle here. I'd probably use maybe a quarter teaspoon. We're just going to go ahead and let that sit for a few minutes while Jason makes some cocktails.
Thank you. All right, we're coming back at it. So we are doing we did the Aperol Spritz. We're going to do the Negroni. This is the drink that has this, and I'm gonna say a slightly let's use the word gender, male, female. This is the big strong drink. That Aperol Spritz, men and women drink that all over Italy. But this is kind of the heartier. I'll say the one that has nothing but alcohol in it, similar to that, but this is all high stakes alcohol stuff. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get a glass chilling, okay, just some ice, because we know that we're gonna put a cocktail in it, especially if this glass comes out of your cabinet. It's going to be about 85 degrees, 80, 72, some other temperature other than cold. And as you've seen them do that, I don't have any water right now, but I'm going to use a tiny bit of club soda. What is it with this stuff today? I'm just using this as if it were water, just to keep that glass, get that glass kind of chilled. You'll see when they make your martini in the bar, you put ice water in it. That's get that martini glass nice and cold. So. What we're going to do is we're going to get, I'm a fan of ice, so I'm not, all right, so we're going to take that glass and do it out here so I can see it. We'll do that, we're going to go with our gin first. So we were talking about this the other day. So if you like gin or you don't like gin, it doesn't really matter. You're going to like this drink. That makes sense? Because you can't really taste the gin. So if you don't like that tiny sip, that taste of gin, you'll still be fine. So we're gonna go. Basically, it's 1/3. The true recipe is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of that Campari and sweet vermouth. Remember, this glass goes up and it gets wider, so it may look like I'm not adding as much, but I changed the recipe to what I believe is the right call, especially if you're using, unless you're using a super high-end sweet vermouth, or Punta Mess is another similar vermouth style. It's an aged aperitif. They drink this straight in some parts of Italy in the north. But again, I'm using much less than that. Okay, this drink should come off. I mean, you want it to have a ruby red kind of color. You can get up on it. All right. So we've got it that far. What we want to do is get it into a shaker glass. I mean, you can do this back and forth. You can shake it. Some people say that this is not the way they would do that. I'm thinking of the way. I mean, so I've got a nice cold glass. I'm a fan of using some of fresh ice and some of the old ice, so that I've had some of that ice that's already seasoned. That's going to dilute pretty fast. All right, so I can tell by the color of that it probably I might have been just a tad shy in the sweet vermouth, but again, I'm doing this verbatim on the fly. Let's taste it. We'll see. All right, let's try it. Here, try it. Pour you one.
I was introduced to juice once when I was on a conference, and I loved them ever since.
Yeah,
Absolutely wonderful on a hot day.
both of these drinks are not really made. These are not the kind of drinks that you start off with and then drink all night. these are these are an aperitif. They get your stimulate. They're both on the side of bitters. They'll stimulate, I don't know, taste buds. Yes. You know, I'm an IPA fan. I don't love a sweet drink. I'll eat a chunk of cake before I'll drink a sweet drink. So to me, this is like perfect. But in Italy, cheers. It would be, you would never see a local in any part of Italy drinking these like you would Jack and Coke for the night. I mean, this is a one before dinner. Again, this is like your whiskey sour or whatever we may drink, or an old fashioned. You know, you tend not to drink old fashions all night here, so I guess this is the version of that. So, but again, it's got a bitter flavor. If you don't like gin, you can omit and add the club soda instead. So just picture that. You would have Campari. Just let's put this in a perspective, just going backwards in time. So this Aperol Spritz, I think this is 14%. Actually, this is only 11%. So this is probably like a light wine, like a Pinot Grigio, or even potentially less in terms of alcohol. Prosecco is probably similar. I think they could have an alcohol content. It's the same. It's champagne, so it's light too. So combined alcohol content is really kind of less than a glass of wine. Come over to this, you've got 80 proof gin. You've got 40 proof, which is 20%. You know, again, equal parts. So, and this is a little bit less. So, all paired together, this is a fairly strong drink, but it's still going to be less than your Jack Daniels and Coke at 86 proof. So, and the one thing, if you just cannot do gin, if it's not available, don't like it for whatever reason, you can substitute that 1/3 with the club soda, 1/3 with the Campari, and then just give it a splash of this vermouth. I'm not a fan of adding 1/3 of this. This thing gets too brown looking. In my mind, that's just too much vermouth, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It has to me, it hides the flavor of the Campari, which I love. Another favorite drink of the guys, you know, if the women tend to lean towards the Aperol Spritz, the guy might have a Campari and soda. It's another classic. So if you wanted to set up an Italian bar to have that sort of a theme going at your house for any given night, Campari, gin, sweet vermouth, Aperol, and Prosecco, you pretty much got it covered. So I think beyond that, let's see, let's move on to the tomato salad. Are we on time? Okay, we got it. All right. I don't know if we'll get a full building tour out of it or not, but I'm having fun here. Good. Are we getting any comments? Is this like a? Oh wait, we should make Bob one. Bob, I'm COVID free. Far less. Let me make him one real quick. If you want to make him one, you saw how I make one. Yeah, make one for these guys.
I'll take an Aperol.
He wants an Aperol. Yeah. So we need to get a wine glass. Good, put it in there. I love the look of that in that glass, especially the way that orange is floating right now. So, when possible, a white wine or red wine or bulbous glass for the Aperol Spritz. You can put it in anything, but because of the Prosecco factor, I would not do this with champagne, and I would not do it in a rocks glass. So again, ultimately, that leaves pretty much the perfect. And yeah, right. So why don't you focus on them making your drinks? That's like, we're gonna zoom in. Maybe he was small. He's like he's got two hands, but he's the other one. And again, normally in Italy, they wouldn't even touch that, but we're okay.
Cheers, Jason.
Cheers. Cheers. You gotta give me credit, man. You're doing really well with the you're versatile, you're ambidextrous. Filming and simply. Again, if you add the club soda to that, I think the ice melting, particularly outside temperature, if you add the club soda, you're just watering that drink down faster. We already proved that it's not even as much alcohol as a glass of wine. So, you know, this could be that, you know, replace 2 martini lunch. I'm going to vote for the 2 Aperol Spritz lunch when we get back to work. We all do that? Promise me we'll do that. We'll go Mad Men style. Instead of martinis, we're going to go Aperol Spritz. So when we all get back to work, we'll know that we'll return to normal by having a 2 Aperol Spritz lunch. And we can have it here if you want. All right. So we're going to move it right along in the essence of time. I know everybody's got other things they might be doing right now. I'm doing what I love. And we're open to questions, by the way, Mark. If anything comes by, otherwise. So we're taking the balance of this onion. I'm going to do exactly what he did, but I'm going to make these a little bit smaller because I'm just keeping them. So I'm, again, always looking for that flat surface. I'm cutting away from my fingers. I'm not holding my knuckles. I'm using the second digit right here is my best friend because it's guiding the knife. And I'm not lifting my knife above that because I'm coming down otherwise on that. So I'm using, again, curling my tips back. God gave us the fingernails to protect our tips of our fingers. We don't want to have to, you know, use that favor up all the same day. So again, curl it back and knowing that you're going to get down to the end. That's when I get that in front of that knife on the cutting board. So again, I'm looking for uniform thickness. I'm looking for a little more bite size. In the Thai salad, we want to create texture. You know, we have that, you know, where so you have the red, the thickness. We wouldn't want to dice everything up to the size of the corn per se, but we have nice shapes and different. There's a contrast here. Here we're looking maybe a little more for uniform. So we've got the onions in there. Now, normally, had we had a full 15 minutes, but you can see, I'm going to do this out here, unless you want to drink this. Now, you're going to see see all that juice that came out of there? I dumped out. But had we had more time, we can always do this in a strainer. Again, that tomato water could or may not be an ingredient for you. This is not the same in that we're making the vinaigrette separate. This is put it all together in one bowl and toss it around. And then if you decide you want to let it rest for an hour or 2, you can. I'm a fan of garlic. I'm not going crazy. You know, it's surprising how little garlic they use in Italy. But I like it. I just don't want to taste it for 6 hours afterwards, particularly with the salad like this. We're going to use some pesto. The better quality pesto, the better you are. I mean, if you can grow the basil and prepare your own pesto, it's great. This is already prepared, already has cheese in it. We make, you know, my mom had an organic farm in Greene County, and we would grow basil plants 500 at a time. And that we would put up 500 quarts of pesto organically grown. I miss her and I miss that opportunity to do that. We're going to get this. Barb, that's your. We're going to find this. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. I love that. So, you know, knowing that we're outside, it's 97, I think I saw in my car. At least it feels 95 right now. So we're looking, and again, essence of speed, but saving and salvaging. If you really wanted to put on a show, you could take each of these leaves and go really inside each other, starting with the biggest on the outside, and then roll it up like a, I don't know, let's say a cigar. Okay, let's use a cigar or whatever your favorite rolling substance is. So we're going to, but the idea is create a chiffonade, and that's just a one cut. You don't want to butcher basil. Basil bruises. You want to get a nice even cut through there. Again, keeping those fingertips back. Okay, he did his, you know, much more fine, more like a garnish of a nice entree on a plate. It's either way. We're going to put it all in here anyway, for the most part. All right. So what else we got? Cheese. We're using fontanella. Is this the fontanella? Yes. All right. Looking for those big chunks. We brought the wheel out because that's how we roll. We had it in there. Why not? We're going to add some lemon. I tend to try to get the seeds out if I can. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, and this is the great thing about cooking outside. You just throw your byproduct out into the weeds, whatever it may be. Well, it's mulch, compostable. Don't put you won't find styrofoam in Sera. Green. So I just kind of making this right now outside. Like this reminds me of my time in Italy. Great segue into my to the tours. Thanks for reminding me, Bob. We talked about because I saw that little extra. So,
We have the comment, but we wish we were in Italy having the drink, but
here we are.
here in Bellafera
Yes.
and Petersburg, we'll have to do today.
Whoever said that, listen up, right? This is your part. Yeah, so I do tours in Tuscany. It took me, when first I went in 2005 when we started to build, design Sera, start the construction, but I needed to go see my family there, kind of authenticate or quantify what exactly I was doing. You know, is there pillars, columns, arches? I'm sure there are all these. I've seen magazines and pictures. I needed to go feel it for myself. So what ended up happening is I went there, I spent a couple weeks with my family, got inspired. Literally the minute I got there, though, I realized that this is awesome. I need to share this with people. So what ended up happening is I figured out 10 years later how to do tours there. I literally vetted every scenario, every restaurant, every experience. So my Tuscany tours are called 10 Days in Tuscany. My daughter Lauren, or I do have an older daughter, Lily. She's working right now. They vetted things along with me. The caves of Carrara, taking the Hummers to the top of the highest peak there, having these Aperol Spritzes, going to eat the lardo, which is made from the belly of the pig, that's aged in marble. So it's very well, how do I say it? It's very connected in terms of the relativity. Every day is kind of a different experience. One day we go to Cinque Terre, we charter a boat. I have a chef from Sardinia making pesto. He makes a really good, simple basil pesto, right, Roman style. Right on the boat, we have big, huge platters of fruit and antipasti and drinks, and then we visit the cities of Cinque Terre, on and on. I happen to have a house over there in Lucca. We stay in Lucca for 3 days. So it's 4 days near the coast, 3 nights around Lucca in a villa that Napoleon Bonaparte's cousin used to live in. She was the Duchess of Lucca. And then we go towards Firenze, Florence. We spend 2 days outside. So it's 10 days in Tuscany is the tour. It is 10 days long, 9 nights. It's 5,500 a person. And that includes literally every gelato, the gelato in San Gimignano, the truffle tasting, the truffle hunt that we do in near Camoglione. It's a small village where the Beretta family, the Gucci family goes and does their truffle hunting and gun shoots and things. So I spare no expense. That's everything included except airfare. I could bore you with the entire Amalfi tour, but that is very much the same thing. It's 8 nights, 9 days, 5,500, everything but airfare. Literally, you don't pull $1 out of your pocket unless you want to buy something. I don't include Gucci or Prada purses with that price. The truffles, you get enough to eat in that lunch. And my friends at Savitar, you know, Marco and the family, they furnish some of the best truffles in the US. So, but you're welcome to buy that stuff along the way. So anyway, Tuscany usually in May, Amalfi usually, it's called Autumn in Amalfi, usually very end of September, first week or so of October. I wrote a lot of checks back this year. I had 42, 12, 14, actually 46 people on those 3 tours. So they're small tours. Tuscany is 14 and Amalfi is 18. And I unfortunately had to cancel them all this year, and we're really looking for 21. I have most, the 3, I do Tuscany twice in May, Amalfi once in October. I have them at least half the space spoken for at this point of time. So if you're remotely interested, get your name to me. Go to jasoncaps.com. We've got that out there. That was like a wide infomercial. Let's get back at it. All right, we're back to the tomato sauce. Thank you. Don't let me start talking about that stuff because I'll just keep going. So anyway, we got our lemon in there. We've got our onion in there. We've got our basil in there. We've got our garlic in there. Salt and pepper. So again, we tend to, this is not, we tend to use kosher or sea salt. We tend to grind our own pepper as well. But we want to get enough of this in here because this is, you're gonna want that, especially the way the tomato. And there's a bit of vinegar. Oh, here, balsamic. Now with this, I'm saying use a good quality balsamic. Do not use the 12 or 25-year-old glaze. You don't need quite that. You don't need junk though. Never. You want a good quality. You know what this is? I see calavita out a lot. I'd say that or better. Again, you don't want to waste the high dollar stuff with raisins and or the expensive aged stuff because you just don't need it. It's a salad. Extra virgin olive oil. We use it from our friends at Macarius. My Greek friends here in Canonsburg have wonderful. I buy 50-gallon drum of that, and we work out. It's Greek olive oil. So you're having a little bit of Kalamata in here. Literally, they go and harvest every year. Maria and Mike family, their products are phenomenal. I'll put something up maybe for them as a link or something. Anyway, I think we've got it all in here. So this salad probably maybe went a little heavy on the cheese, but who cares? And we wanted to support that with maybe a little bit more tomato. We could do that. You know what I mean? So I think the idea here is make the salad exactly how you want it. You love garlic, put more garlic. You love cheese, add more cheese. More basil. But what you do want is you can see that. You want some dressing there at the bottom. See that? You want that. Because you know what? That with the loaf of Italian bread is like dessert as far as I'm concerned, before dinner even happens. So again, I would not make this. You don't want to beat this up and flip this around for half an hour either. You want to kind of get the ingredients together. If I would have made an emulsified vinaigrette, back to that point, it would not penetrate those tomatoes. It would kind of sit on the outside of it and kind of feed off of it. We want to kind of get into the meat of the tomato. And that's why I add them separate. I mean, this is really pretty much done. I mean, you could eat this as soon as now, or you can let it sit. I personally am not a wild fan of this second or third day. Second day maybe, but as it starts to get more watery, remember we added salt to that, that vinaigrette is going to get more watery. If you had, say, that much left over after making a big batch for a party, what I would do is probably drain that vinaigrette off, put it to the side. Next day, taste the vinaigrette, reintroduce it, or add fresh vinegar and oil to that salad. Kind of started. Your tomatoes are going to be a little softer, but at least by them sitting together all night, I just kind of would just think and try to think of a little more of a, like I think it's more pungent. So, you know, the one thing I forgot to do, I do it on every cooking show. It's like no cooking show is complete unless you actually taste it. So we should probably taste it. Do you have any vessels? Do you have any utensils? We have the spoon, we have the spoons going on. All right, well, I was going to let everybody share, so we're going to get you guys in on this. So we tasted, oh, you saw us taste those drinks. Yeah, delicious. Yeah, that's perfect. The corn salad, she was, my daughter is the one, we had her birthday in New York City in December. It's a restaurant, Fish Chips, on Bond Street in Soho. Great place. You'll see something in the picture that we posted. They're little asparagus. They're actually sea asparagus. They look like green beans. You could add that to this dish. You'll see it on the photo of this dish. Completely recall. I don't know if I'd modify that with anything. But again, you know, just keep that simple. Use the good freshness of the ingredients you have going on. Super personal. Yeah. And again, probably if you can keep more chunks similar to that in size, you know, we had things like Manchego or Asiago. You want a denser, harder cheese. If you use a mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, it's going to suck up all that juice and have a dark color to it. Nothing wrong with that. I just think the caprese, the fresh mozzarella, the caprese is a separate item. So I would think a little harder, denser cheese, aged provolone or something like that. I've made that so many times.
I'm just a huge fan of Bucknell. Really, honestly, quality, hardness,
yeah.
Super good flavor.
First, like,
oh yes, we do.
Oh, and then we have our bread. So this is I'll leave you with the Italian word, and some of you who have done this before or have grandmothers. Scarpetta. Scarpetta means little shoe. And when you do this, this is when you're dragging the shoe. It could be with gravy, meat sauce, tomato, whatever. And when you do this, this is called scarpetta. So, ciao, arrivederci. Love y'all. See ya. Ciao, tutti. Thanks, Bob, for having us.
Thank you, Jason. And we're not going to wait for another pandemic before we do this again. Thank you for the recipes. This will be recorded and sent out for anybody. And take care and talk to you soon.
I love that. Cheers. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. Thank you much. Stop it out next time.